Hello, everybody. My name is Kyle, and this is Kyle's Trail Miles, where I talk about all things trail running, running in general, and everything about running. So today's video is a tip and trick video, so let's dive right in. I'm going to talk today about the almighty treadmill and a tip, that I have for it. Now, a lot of people give the treadmill a bad, bad rap. I actually don't mind the treadmill because I live in Canada. It's super cold here. I know some people like running out in the cold. That's not me. When I get home from work in the evening, it's already dark. It's cold. It's windy. I'm running on the treadmill. So I discovered this sort of tip or trick about 4 years ago through an unlikely event. And I just want to share with you. It's had huge benefits for me. And so here we go. So I was big into endurance sports way back in the day, like 10, 15 years ago. I did the Ironman, and I was big into triathlons, and then I had a couple kids, so I sort of, took a bit of time off. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I really got back into it with a couple of buddies, and I've been going strong ever since. So about 4 years ago, I dust off my treadmill one winter, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And like a lot of people in this space, not so much anymore because I feel like YouTube has really shone the light on this, but I was always like hardcore, like highest intensity at all times. Zone 2, what is that? I think you guys all get that. And so if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Zone 2. And so I didn't really know too much about that. So I get back on the treadmill, and of course my thought process at the time was every treadmill run, like you got to make it count. So if I decided I'm going to run 10 kilometers on the treadmill today, and I had to jump off the treadmill for some reason, like huge fail. Like, what am I doing with my life? And so I went through a winter of sort of training that way. And anyways, it wasn't the best. And so the next year, I wanted to ramp up my training, ramp up my treadmill running. And so I kind of made a decision based on a factor that had nothing to do with fitness or fitness gains or anything like that. What I decided was I was going to not worry about jumping off the treadmill, because jumping off the treadmill is a unique advantage that the treadmill does offer you. You can't do that in real life running. You can't just be running full clip or at a really good pace and then just suddenly stop. You got to slow down and whatnot. So that is an advantage of the treadmill. But how do you use that to your advantage? Well, what I found out was through the fact that I just didn't want to be a jerk to my kids that winter. I felt like the winter before just wasn't great. Like, it was kind of like, well, dad's on the treadmill, like don't bother him, kind of thing. And that's not the dad I want to be. That's not that's not the how I want to be with my kids. So I decided the following year, as we were heading into winter, I thought, okay, this is going to be a big year on the treadmill. I'm going to really take advantage of this. And so I'm going to jump off. If my kids come down and they want to talk to me, and I need to jump off for a minute, 5 minutes, whatever it is, to talk with them, look at the picture they drew, whatever, then that's fine. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to take my ego. I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to be a dad first, and no problem. So that was just my decision. I just, and with us ultra runners, once you make up your mind on something, it's pretty, it's pretty good to go. So that winter, I start running that way, and every time my kids would come down, hey, no problem, jump off, smile. What can I, how can I help? And what I found is the benefits of that were off the chart. So number one, of course, it got me really back down into that zone 2 training, which we know is so important. And I don't do a ton of zone 2 in the summertime. Like when I'm out in the world, I find that like 140 to 150 heart rate, what YouTube considers like the dead zone. I just really enjoy that zone. And my rule is you go for the run today that gets you excited to lace up your shoes. And so those are the runs I like to do out in the world. So I don't do a lot of like slow zone 2. I just don't enjoy it. But on the treadmill, it's awesome because you can just kind of watch a movie, watch some sports, and just kind of grind along, jump off when your kids come down, et cetera, et cetera. So to give you an example, and I'm going to get into some real sort of side benefits of this here in just a second, but here's an example of a run I did a couple weeks ago. So it was a 10K run. And as you can see, I jumped off the treadmill. Like every one of these little blips here would be a time when I jumped off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 10 times. So basically almost one, if you average it out, one time every kilometer I jumped off the treadmill for some reason. Now, this reason might be probably 5 of them where one of my kids came down and whatever, so I chatted with them about something. 2 were probably that I had to go to the bathroom. Two would probably refill my water bottle. You get the idea. There's all kinds of reasons why I would jump off the treadmill. So, and no problem. And I do it all the time now. It's not an issue for me. Every now and then I will pick a treadmill run where I'm like, all right, I'm going to go after this one, but it's pretty few and far between. So what were the advantages that I found from this, and why is this a tip? So the tip I found, because you don't need this on the screen anymore. Although it's probably better than just staring at a giant face of mine, but so the advantages of this are simple, or what I found were the advantages. So number one, and these are in no particular order, is obviously I wasn't a jerk to my kids, which was big. But number two, heart rate recovery I found was awesome. Every time you jump off, you're letting your heart rate recover. And I'm no doctor slash, I really have no idea what I'm talking about, but that's important, is to train your heart rate to recover. And so every time I jump off the treadmill, I go from pretty good heart rate to just boom. Now I'm at a dead stop. And again, you can't do that in nature, so take advantage of it. And so over a couple of years of doing this, I found that not only does my heart rate recover way faster than it used to, just in all situations, but I feel like a new person when I jump off. If I'm running along and I'm feeling kind of tired and I jump off even for 15 seconds, 10, 20 seconds, and I jump back on, my legs feel fresh again. It's crazy. And that didn't happen 2-3 years ago. But now it's crazy how much I can recover in my heart rate and my body in just 30 seconds. It's unbelievable. And so that's one big advantage. And of course that's key when you're out there doing these long ultra marathons, is to be able to bring that heart rate down. Or backyard ultras is another great example of where that's super important. And so, which I'll kind of talk about here in a minute. So heart rate recovery, obviously one big one. Another one was being able to run at that consistent speed. So one of the things I decided when I made that decision, like, okay, you know what, I'm going to have no problem jumping off, is, well, I'm going to crank the speed up a little bit now, because if I'm going to be jumping off a bit, I want to be running a little bit faster. So I think that was a big advantage, where I said, okay, I'm going to run at this speed no matter what. I'm never going to go below this speed. And then if I have to jump off because I'm tired, no problem. But I'm training my body to run at that speed. And what I found, what my speed was 3 years ago, now I wouldn't even run at that speed at all, because it wouldn't, like, you know what I mean? Like I've gone way up. And even now, the speed that I run at on the treadmill is what 2-3 years ago my interval speed was. So when I would do my intervals, that's now what I just run normally on my treadmill. And so I don't know. I think that's a huge advantage, because again, you can't do that out in nature, unless you're just staring at your watch or you have this unbelievable awareness of your pace. But on the treadmill, you can do that. Now, I will caveat this by saying that you do use slightly different muscles, or you omit muscles, I think, that are on the treadmill than outside. So you still got to get outside. I did a winter one time where I never ran outside the whole winter, and that was a huge error on my part, because I went out the first day in spring, and the muscles, which for me are kind of up in my groin, that was all bad. So still get outside, but you got to take advantage of the treadmill when you have to. So anyway, so having that consistent speed is huge, and then just jumping off if you need to. Because of course in nature, you just, you sort of usually gradually slow down over time, whereas this way you don't have to. Now the next one is getting on the treadmill is way, way easier now than it used to be, because before, if I was going to jump on the treadmill for a 10K run, I had to have everything set. Okay, have I gone to the bathroom enough? How's that feeling? Do I have my water bottle perfect? Are my shoes tied perfect? I got my 2 granola bars. The sports is just after halftime. It's perfect. I don't have to change the station. Like, there was a lot to process, and I still find deep in my sort of psyche, I still deal with that now, where before I'm getting on the treadmill, I'm kind of like lining everything up, and I have to actually say to myself, Kyle, just get on the treadmill. And so now what I do is I throw my shoes on, I stretch really quick, and I get on the treadmill. And I'm 3Ks in before I realize, hey, oh shoot, I forgot to fill up my water bottle. No problem. Jump off, go fill the water bottle. Like, oh, I do got to go to the bathroom. No problem. Go to the bathroom. But you're already 3Ks in now, whereas before I would have been, and so it's just the more barriers you take away to get this stuff done, the better. And I found that was a huge one. So now I'll jump on I'll jump on any time. Like, yeah, no problem if I got to jump off. Anyways, you get the idea. So really brings that value. And also too, it's winter. We're in the middle of the off season. I have to remind myself of that quite a bit, where right now I don't want to say I'm going through the motions, but I'm just, you know what I mean? Like it's the off season. Like I've got to have a little bit of downtime. I got to give my body a bit of a recovery time. And so, yeah, I'm still putting in 70 kilometers a week, and a lot of it is on the treadmill, but it's easy, you know, kilometers, lots of recovery. It's just good miles this time of year. So, so there's that. Lastly, it's very, in my opinion, sets us up for success in ultra marathons. Maybe not marathons. If I was doing specific marathon training, I maybe wouldn't take this approach as much. But for ultra marathons, I think it's great because when you're running in the mountains, even if you're doing like a long day in the mountains, you are, I don't want to say constantly stopping, but there's a lot of like, hey, okay, wait for the rest of the group to catch up, or you get to the top of the mountain, hey, take a couple pictures. Like there's organic times where you're just sort of letting your heart rate come down, and the more you can train your body to take advantage of those moments, the more it's going to work out for you. And I've really found that when we're in a ultra marathon, I often run longer ultra marathons with a couple buddies, and we go into an aid station, and I'm just, you know, I'm feeling like, you know, we're going to an aid station, and just that 4 minutes of kind of having somebody just fill in the water, taking that time. When we get going again, I'm just like, man, I feel great. And I think it's because of this. And so, and I don't do this a lot in the summer. Like I'm not, when I go for a run in the summer, I like to just flow, you know, I like to cruise through the hills of Lethbridge and just flow. I don't do a lot of stopping. And so doing it in the winter like this on the treadmill, it just really works out for me because it just every advantage I just said. So yeah, so in true life, when we're in ultra marathons, I find that just being able to do that heart rate recovery quick and giving your body that experience of stopping, taking that 3 to 4 minutes, and then rolling again, it's just great. So yeah, so that's my tip and trick. So don't shy away from it. Like the best thing I ever did here is just take my ego and just kind of push it over to the side on this one. And so take advantage of the treadmill in the way that you can. Don't be afraid to jump off. Trust me, the benefits are huge. Now, I will say that the only thing that keeps me from jumping off more per se is that I just want to get the run done. Like it does every time you jump off, obviously you're clogging, you know, I mean, you get the idea. So you don't want to jump off too much, I'm not saying, but don't be afraid to. It's a huge advantage that you have. That's my tip. All right, everyone. Thanks, and we will chat soon.